Good evening, everyone. Hey, it's me, Jeanette, the owner of MYBC Consulting. And it's Tuesday night, and that means we're taking the books off of the MYBC virtual bookstore shelves, and we're featuring the authors. I am super duper excited for this evening's chat. I have known this particular fellow through cooking shows, cooking demos, trade shows, knives, and just an all-around great guy. So welcome, Chef Dez.
Awesome. Welcome. Yeah, that's great. What an intro. I appreciate that very much.
Well, what's your real name?
Well, Gordon, but if you call me Gordon, you sound like my mother.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that.
Even my wife calls me Dez. So my last name is Desarmo, French. Really long, complicated name with an X at the end. So the nickname is Dez. I actually followed in my dad's footsteps in that respect. His nickname was Dez. So once I entered my culinary career, that's actually a funny story. There was a guy working in the same restaurant as me, and his name was Gord. But pardon my French, he was a bit of an ass, right? And I didn't want people to talk about him saying Gord, and then they think they're talking about me because we were the only two Gords there. So I said, you know what? Just call me Dez. And that just stuck. And from that point on, it's been Chef Dez.
So let's go back to the start of your culinary career. Like, why culinary? So share a bit of your history.
All right. Well, really long story. I used to want to be an accountant and just changed paths. I remember sitting there doing the exam for my taxation, third year CGA. And I finished the exam, and I was like, "What am I doing? Like, I'm gonna be an accountant my whole life." Hey, and nothing against accountants out there, okay? But man, I just thought I'm gonna be doing this my whole life. Like, there's more to life than this, right?
Right.
And so started fresh at 27 years old, and I went through divorce actually at the time. It was tough. But I had to start from scratch. I was actually a business owner at the time. My wife and I at the time, we ran a gas station. So we were business owners, and marriage fell apart, and we had to dissolve the business. And I went from, so this is in just to give you a perspective, this was in 1995.
Okay.
And 94, 95, around there. And went from, at the time, earning well over 100 grand in that time. Mm-hmm. Driving a brand new Mustang GT, going from that, going bankrupt, living in a bachelor suite, and my car was a $400 lime green Nova, 1974. So it was a bit of a wake-up call, and at that point is when I decided that, you know what, you could have money, you could have all this stuff, and that's really what I was chasing. I was chasing the dollar.
Right.
So I was living with my head, not with my heart. And all that was gone in a split second. So I thought, you know what? Now's my chance. Now's my chance to do what I really want to do. And that's when I really started pursuing becoming a chef. And it was really funny because I had a little bit of experience before that in different restaurants, like from when I was working in school and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But not really much of anything. And I looked around, talked around, and the place at the time that was offering, you could work there and achieve your Red Seal chef certificate, right, was Earl's. So I went to the local Earl's. So back then in Abbotsford, the Earl's, I don't know if you remember this, was across from, it's not a Safeway anymore, it's a Freshco, but across the street, where the bulk barn is?
Yes.
The Earl's was there. And I went in there because I lived in Abbotsford and I could walk there because I couldn't afford to drive very many days. And walked in there, talked to the chef, gave him my resume, and he's looking at my resume. He's looking at me, and they have mostly kids working there, right? Here I am, 27 years old, coming off earning more than 100 grand a year with all this. And he's looking at me and he says, "I'm not going to hire you." And I said, "Well, you don't understand. I really want to do this." He says, "I am not going to hire you. I'm going to put all these hours in training you. I can only offer you a minimum wage. I can't even offer you full time. You're going to quit." I said, "I'm not going to quit. You don't understand. I really want to do this." Mm-hmm. So it took me 4 times going back there with my resume to say, I'm serious about this. So finally, he had an opening. He says, you know what? I'm going to give you a shot. But if you quit, man, I'm going to be so mad at you.
Wow, what a
And
start.
so I started, and you can only offer me the dish pets. So you washing dishes. So here I am at 27 years old, working with all these kids at Earl's. And I say kids, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever. And I was the oldest guy on the staff, and just worked my way up. And I worked my way up all the way to night coach. And then they were so impressed with me that they brought me with them to open the brand new Earl's in Richmond, Lansdowne.
Mm-hmm.
I started on the day team then, and worked for Earl's for a period of time. But as you know, whatever Earl's you go to, it's the same menu, right? So I wanted some creativity, so I went to the local Sheraton Guildford Hotel. I was living in Surrey at the time, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I want to work here." And he looked at my resume and he says, "Man, all you got is Earl's, right? I'm not going to hire you. What's Earl's?" And again, same thing, just persistence, going in there with my resume. And finally, they had somebody give their notice 2 weeks, and he called me up and he says, "You know what? I'm going to give you a shot. Can you start in 2 weeks?" I said, "You bet, I'm there." Wow. And then we went to that. But here's the thing. When I was pursuing that chef's career, my dad didn't really want me to do that. And his buddy was the general manager at a trucking company, and they had an opening for an accountant. And I was a third-year CGA, good with numbers, all the bit. He says, "Go talk to him. Go talk to him." I said, I don't want to. I want to pursue this. You'll have your own office. You'll have a big salary. You'll work Monday to Friday and all this sort of stuff. And so I talked to him, and I took the job. And so here I was, head accountant for this trucking company. And about 2 or 3 years into it, I was like, what am I doing? I sold off my whole dream, and I went back to the dollar. Right.
Wow.
And at that point, I had enough hours to challenge the Red Seal exam. So I did. I wrote the exam, became a chef. So here I am, a certified Red Seal chef, working as an accountant and not pursuing my dream. And I could just see my headstone, come into life in front of me, saying he was an accountant.
He added up the numbers instead of cooked the beans.
Yeah, that's right. And so I needed to change that. I made an email to Karen McSherry. You heard of Karen McSherry?
Yes, know Karen very well.
She was the only sort of well-known chef locally that I knew of at the time. And, sent her an email like, "Oh, I want your advice. Here's my situation."
Yeah.
And she just said, "If you love food, you will find a way. You will find a way." Because I didn't want to just flip burgers in the evening, work at night, and go and flip burgers. I didn't want that.
Right.
You will find a way. So what I did after that, I started doing like in-home gourmet dinner parties, small, intimate, like
beautiful,
6 to 8 people talk.
I'm going to pause you there just for a sec, Chef Dez, because there's a couple of things I'd love to unpack that you shared with me. First of all, how did you reconcile with yourself to continue to take this dream on? And number two, it just came to me, and it's gonna come back. I lost it. I'd love to know how you kept yourself wholly engaged in this dream, wholly engaged in continuing on the culinary trail.
I think the biggest catalyst was losing everything. I was chasing something. My heart wasn't really into it. I was chasing it anyway, just because I knew the payoff would be good. And when you hit rock bottom, it does something to you. Everything that you thought was there and solid and in your life permanently was ripped away and gone. And you have nothing. So literally waking up, collecting my very first welfare check ever, living in a bachelor suite. We had 2 kids, so, not having them around all the time. Everything's gone. You don't even have a job. Like, you could do a wake-up call. So life is more than that. Life is more than just a buck in your pocket.
Right.
Life is more than the stuff you have, than the car you drive. And it took that to happen to me for me to realize that, and thought, you know what? I gotta pursue this. And this is something
Love
I
it.
want to do. And I mean, you hear it all the time. It's a big cliche. Hey, when you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work, but it's true. It's really true, right?
You know what? I agree. I so agree with you. And I'm going to, I fail to mention this all the time. Guys, when I interview my authors, this is done via Zoom over to Facebook, and I don't use StreamYard. If you have any questions for Chef Dez, put them in the comments. He'll come back and take a look later. I do like to stay present for the kind of as things come top of mind. So he will come back. He promises to come back. If you've got any questions throughout any of this little chat that we're having about his journey to becoming a chef and overcoming lots of good stuff. So I always fail to mention that. Please continue.
Yeah, you bet. So I did little dinner parties and stuff like that. And then I thought, you know what, I could teach. And you know what really drove me to that was the show Emerald Live, Emerald Lagasse, right?
Yes.
Bam, and
Yes.
I grew up watching cooking shows my whole life. I'll be honest with you, Jacques Pepin and Julia Child and Urban Peasant, James Barber and the whole bit. But when I saw Emerald Live, it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I can do that. I don't know how or when, but that's what I can do. I can do that. And I was working Sheridan Guilford Hotel at the time. So this is even before I went back being accounting, but I didn't know how I was getting there. I just believed I would.
Mm-hmm.
And and in my mind, I'm still not there yet. I'm not Emerald, obviously. I haven't got a show. I haven't do a live audience like that sort of thing. But that's my dream. That's my goal. If I can do that, man, everything's good. But I just keep working that. I just keep believing. So
I love that.
That's what really drove me at that point. Then I'm doing the dinner parties, and I'm married to Catherine now. She's like my soulmate, and she's the one.
She's a beautiful lady. If anybody knows how to support Chef Dez, his wife has a heart of gold. You've got a beautiful wife, Chef Dez.
Thank you. Yeah, she's awesome, and she's really the catalyst that really helped my career go in this direction. So I was still working full time as an accountant and doing Chef Dez in the evenings and weekends. And I started teaching at just a local community school, right? And classes started selling out. I started teaching a local winery. They're selling out. So I'd add this venue. They kept selling out. So I thought, okay, I'm on to something. I'm doing something right.
Correct.
And so it came to a point where I was just so busy. So working full time. Catherine and I were married. We had our first child and my two previous kids, and just busy. My life was full. And she's like, you know what? I hardly ever see you because you're working nonstop, daytime in your accounting job, your chef's career, Chef Dez Enterprises. And, we can't continue like this. But I said, you're absolutely right. So I'm going to quit my accounting job. And she was panicked at first. And I have to admit, I was a little bit, but I knew I could do it. I knew it within my heart. And so in June 2008, I quit my accounting job full time. And I've been doing this.
June
2008 of June. Yeah.
Just for a sec. June 2008, you took this leap of faith, my friends. Yeah, those of us that are old enough all know what happened in 2008. Wow. The whole housing crisis, financial stuff upside down and backwards. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to any of that. It was time, and did it, leapt, and I remember hearing this couple. They moved from, I believe, Vancouver, and they were in the finance world and everything. And they moved from Vancouver. They bought a church, I think it is, in Saskatchewan. They opened up an art studio in a cafe, and something that they heard, and they painted on the side of the cafe. I believe this is how the story goes. And if somebody out there knows this story, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But they painted it there, and it says, "If you jump, the net will appear." And it's so true. So people are stuck in their day-to-day. They're stuck doing a job they don't really like. How it's a grind. That's why the daily grind, right? Mm-hmm. And if you really believe in yourself and you really love something, just do it. I'm not asking you to quit your job tomorrow and then take this. No, I mean, you got to be a little bit safe about it, obviously. But if you have that goal and you want that dream to come true, you got to take these steps every single day to get there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You can just sit there and keep it as a dream, right?
Okay, so we're gonna like fast forward a little bit here and go, there's something that you're here because you're an author of a few, count them, is it 6 books? 6?
Yeah. The first 3 cookbooks are Chef Dez on Cooking Volume 1, 2, and 3. So what that was, so I started a food column, right? That is nationwide in Washington State. And I just really grew that through persistence. I would see the local paper. How it started, here's a good story for you. How it started, my food column, which got into my books and everything else. And Catherine was the one that inspired me to do my food column, but I've contacted the local newspaper. It was the Abbotsford Times. And I said, hey, look, I was reading through your paper and noticed you haven't got a food column. And they said, nope. And I said, well, how many readers do you think eat food? How many of your readers do you think, want to figure out what to make for dinner? I said, I bet you all of them. And I told him who I was. And he says, well, send me a couple samples of what you can do. And so I did. And he said, you know what, let's do this. And I said, no charge. I'll just do it for free. And I'll give you a new column every 2 weeks. And a buddy of mine, he said to me at the time, says, you're nuts. Like, how long does it take you to write a column? I said, well, depending on the topic and stuff like that, I don't know, half hour to an hour or something. So you can do that for free? It doesn't make sense. I said, hold on. I get a half-page ad in the newspaper with my picture, with my website, with my name for nothing, for free. And then I started contacting more newspapers, just call them up on the phone. Hey, talk to the editor and, hey, I noticed you haven't got a food column. How about you, how many readers do you think eat food? And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. So that led to my first 3 books, because my first 3 books had a collection of my columns in there, plus recipes that were reflected by that column.
Okay.
The trouble is when you first write a book like that, it's your first crack at it. The fonts they're not very good and everything else. So on my website, chefdez.com, you'll notice that those first 3, they're discontinued. You can find them. Is this one discontinued? No, not that one. Not that one. So that one's called The Best in Your Kitchen. That's the best of my career out of those first 3 books. Okay.
Mine's even signed.
Awesome. Yeah. So what I did, once I knew what I was sort of doing, I mean, don't get me wrong, the recipes are so great, but I want to change the font, the layout, the size, everything else. And that's where this one was born. Okay. And this was released, I believe, in 2006. No, not 2006. That was, what am I thinking? 2016. Sorry.
Yeah, I was at your launch party for this.
Yeah, that's right. 2016.
Yeah.
Is when this one was released. And then just last year,
that's
Cooking
beautiful.
Around the World Dez. So this one was born from the pandemic, because the pandemic hit. And well, you know what it's like being self-employed, right? I mean, you got to figure out where your next buck is coming from all the time. Yep. And I'm a sales rep for Big Green Egg. Big Green Egg. I'll show you that.
That's awesome.
And I'm corporate chef for BC Egg, but beginning of the pandemic, it's pretty much no income for 2 months. There's, not really much happening, right? All the businesses were shut down. All my live classes were done. Nobody for the retailers for Big Green Egg weren't buying anything because nobody knew what was going to happen. So really had no income. And I didn't know what to do. Right? What am I going to, here's another speed bump, right? What am I going to do? And more like a fence you got to climb, right? And so someone, I can't remember who it was, said, hey, you should do classes online. I said, well, how am I going to do that? Like, people can't even taste my food, right? How am I going to even do that, right? But I looked into it, chose the Zoom format, did a launch to say, hey, look, I'm just trying this out. If you want to come for a free class, I'm limiting to 25 people. They signed up right away, and just, it was born, So I've been doing this now for almost 2 years, live Zoom classes. Go to chefdez.com, click on classes, you'll see the live ones. And that's what really stemmed this book, because I had to write all these recipes, right? And so with all these recipes I'm doing for the Zoom classes, you got to put them somewhere. So this one has over 130 recipes. This one has over 150 recipes. And I'm working on another book to follow up this one. And that's going to be probably released next year.
So read the back of the book. I'm like fascinated with backs of books. So please read the back of your book.
So it says another great cookbook from Red Seal chef and author and culinary instructor, Chef Dez. Take a trip around the world through adventures in your kitchen with the help of Chef Dez and his fabulous recipes. Chef Dez has helped thousands of people to rekindle their love for cooking. His cooking classes, live performances, cookbooks, food columns, and TV appearances are second to none and showcase his passion for food and people. But what I really love, and I included on the back, was a quote from one of my Zoom class attendees. Okay, she lives in Langley. Her name is Karen. And she says, "Thank you for your cooking classes and your recipe books. Best recipes we have ever tried. I find most recipes from cookbooks, magazines, Pinterest, etc. are always lacking in flavor. Every recipe I have tried from your classes and recipe books have been simply amazing with 2 exclamation marks. So full of flavor and always have that wow factor. They are also easy to follow with no crazy ingredients or measurements. I have been cooking for 30 years and have gone through many, many, many recipe books, and yours have blown me away." How could you not include that on your book?
That's amazing. And you know what? Something else, because I'm older and, I think we're about the same age. You know what I love about your cookbook?
What's that?
Is it's still in cups.
Yeah.
Like it's still in imperial, I think they call it. It's still in cups and teaspoons and pounds.
Yeah.
That's how I love to cook. I've got a scale that does both. I'm a big fan of using a scale for cooking. That I love the fact that it's in a language, a cooking language that I can understand. So I love it.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll put both. I'll put the pounds and grams in brackets or vice versa. I'll include both because there's people out there that want to, they're on the grams and kilograms and milliliters and all this, right? I get it. So you got to accommodate for everybody, and I try and do that.
So my next question, or my final 2 questions,
okay,
is how did you set yourself up to commit to writing the book? What was the environment that you needed to tell your family, to tell your kids, to tell yourself? How did you commit to writing these 6 cookbooks?
Well, my goal, I wanted to leave my full-time job. I wanted to build my business. And I've always been told and heard of that the biggest way to success is to not exchange hours for dollars. If you can get to a point in your business where you're not exchanging hours for dollars, not getting paid by the hour sort of thing, you're doing something else where you can just earn income as you sleep, that's the way to do it. So in my business as being a chef, that equals a book. I got to have a book, right? I got to be able to sell my recipes and not have to always just teach them at a live class.
Correct.
So that's what really drove it. And I had the columns, which I wasn't making any from, just advertising, right? So people are going to my website, which was great. But what are you going to get there if you can't buy anything, right? So you can see where I'm going to be at. Hey, that's great. And maybe if you live locally, hey, I can see them in person at this class, but there's nothing to buy. So that's what really drove that first book. I got to have something to sell there, right? So why not have these recipes that I've written it anyway and get them into a book so we can sell that book, right? So
I'm talking about further because, as I say, before we came on, I mentioned to you that there's somebody out there that is like 97, 98%. They're going to write their book. How did you set your family environment? Meaning, hey, kids, hey, Catherine, I got to go work on my book now. I can't be interrupted. How did you set your family up to support you? Because there's fun watching you on your cooking shows and doing the dishes afterwards and that. But this is like, pardon the expression, the paperwork for you to kind of live your legacy as well as leave a legacy.
Well, I was fortunate in the sense that my first book didn't come until after I left my full-time day job. So I had the time. I had the time at that point because I left. My classes were selling. I was making an income. So I was able to do that at that point. It still took, some evenings and stuff like that. But my wife was on board the whole time because she was more panicked than I was about where am I going to get my next dollar from, right? So, hey, anything you need to do, sweetheart, you just do that.
Awesome.
And I'm there for you, right? So she's been awesome and my inspiration through this whole journey. And really, and I tell her this, she doesn't believe it, but she is the one that has really grown my business. Yes, I've done the legwork and everything else, but she has been that support, that shining light through the whole time to say that, hey, I believe in you. I love you. I know you can do it. You know, when you have that person on your side, I really feel you can take on the world.
Oh, I so agree. I so
Yeah.
agree.
So if there's somebody out there that wants to write a book and you think, well, I don't know, and stuff like that, hey, do some research on whatever kind of book you're thinking of doing. And what do you got to lose, right? You have one shot at this lifetime, one shot. And I'm not going to get into, you know, reincarnation and all this and all this lifetime that we've been given. No matter what your beliefs are, you have one shot at it. One. That's it. So do the best you can. And
okay,
and right?
Chef Dez. Okay, my internet's gone a little wacky,
yes.
So hopefully you're still there. Can you still hear me, Chef Dez?
Are you frozen?
Oh, hopefully my internet is going to come back.
I don't know if you're frozen or I'm frozen, but. Are we back?
Oh, and we're back.
Well, all right.
That was fun. I lost internet, and it's interesting that you're back now, and it re-hooked us back up, in which I'm seeing my double on my computer. So just to kind of wrap this up, I always love to ask, you know, technology. Thank goodness for it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
Please tell me 3 people that you think your books would be a good gift for.
Oh, 3 people? I could probably list 100, but the thing I say to people all the time, this is the most important thing about what I do. Every single person, whether you have a desire to cook or not, whether you love cooking or hate it, you have taste buds, and you can taste something, whether you cooked it or someone else cooked it or you're at a restaurant or whatever, and you can say, wow, that's amazing. The rest of your life, you're going to eat food. The rest of your life, you're going to have that ability to say, wow, that's great. And the rest of life, you're going to have a kitchen. Why not take a step forward to hone that craft, whether you think it's a craft or not? Why don't you do it? There's no reason not to. Just, you know, learn something new. And you know what? I make sure that my classes are not intimidating. Just try it for $20. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, I'm sitting there, we have the interaction, hold your hand. So 3 people, anyone that likes to cook, but I don't know, your brother, your sister, your dad, your mother, your cousin, your friend, you know, send Jeanette my new book for her. Say, Jeanette, you're awesome, right? Maybe I'll do that. But
or maybe I'll come and pick it up because you're not that far from where I live.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. I'm going to suggest this would make a great graduation present for someone that is, say, moving out for the first time, because Chef Dez's recipes are very approachable and you can find any of the ingredients at any of the grocery stores or markets close by. I'd also say it'd make a great wedding present as well for that maybe person that's intimidated about cooking. Yeah. And I'd also say it would make a great, I'm going to say, gift for a grandparent who wants to spend time in their kitchen with their kids, because I often say that if we get our kids into the kitchen in a loving environment with recipes like yours that are delicious and nutritious and they're great, is the grandparents are going to be teaching math to the kids. But in the end, there's going to be a delicious meal that they're going to be able to break bread over and sit down at a table and get. I'm a big fan, Chef Dez, like you are. I watch you on social media all the time. Bringing people back to the table is where the memories are made. And what better way to make a memory than over a beautiful meal?
You got it. You got it right there. And those kids, you know what? They're going to grow up and they're going to be adults. They're going to have a kitchen of their own. They're going to need to know how to cook. So if they can learn that at an early age, it's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Chef Dez, for joining me. We will make sure afterwards, when I say my thank yous in the comment box, that we'll get you to put your contact information so people can find your cookbooks, your cooking classes. And I could talk to you for hours. We're very like-minded in the culinary world. I went to culinary school 1.5 million years ago as well. I so respect those in the culinary arts because they appreciate the anthology, the archaeology, and appreciate our farmers. So big woo woo out to the farmers right now.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you so much, my friend. Tune in next Tuesday at, I can't remember if it's going to be 5 p.m. my time or 7 p.m. for another edition of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. I end this always saying, go grab a book, maybe get a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice. Go sit on the couch, take your mind, body, and spirit to somewhere where you've never been before through the pages of a book. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.